we're 4 days away from Shavuot, right? So let's speak about the Kabbalah HaTorah that we made on Shavuot. Before I begin, I just want to let everyone here know that every Shavuot we have to make a Kabbalah HaTorah. Even though it doesn't say in our Ma'azorim, it doesn't say in our Sidurim, but this I heard from my Rebbeim, who were great, great people, that it's brought down in Sforim. Come Shavuot, every one of us has to accept upon ourselves again a Kabbalah HaTorah. Meaning to say, we have to say Nasa B'Nishma. We're going to say Nasa B'Nishma. Question is like this. Why is the Kabbalah HaTorah the Lashon Nasa B'Nishma? Nasa B'Nishma means a collective acceptance. Not the Lashon Rabbah. Why not say Ese? Ese, I'm going to do. Why is it Nase? Ese, I'm going to do. Ese V'Eshma. I'm going to do it, I'm going to hear. Why do we have it Nase B'Nishma? Now let me add to this question. Let's say a Rebbe comes into a class and sees that they did something wrong. So, and he wants to impress upon the boys that they did something wrong, and he gives a strong shmuz, and the imam gives it to Messiah, and they hear the apple that they did. Now, if he finishes that shmuz, so there's two approaches. One approach is to say to the whole class, do you now accept upon yourself you're not going to do it again? And the whole class says, yes. Very nice. Nice. But isn't it stronger if you go around to each individual and you say, are you accepting upon yourself not to do it? Are you? And the teacher goes around the whole class, and every one of them says, I accept upon myself, I'm not going to do it. Which is stronger? Of course, go around to each one. So why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu do it that way? Just like in this past week's parsha we had, that everyone was counted. What does it mean everyone was counted? Everyone went through the counting. Every person. How is that possible to do it in a day? I don't know. But they did it. Everyone went through the counting. Right? So why can't we have that everyone should go by and say Nasa B'Nishma? Why was it needed the Nasa B'Nishma? Nasa B'Nishma means, as Divrei, the Pasuk says, Vayagei Moshe as Divrei Hom. Divrei Hom meaning the whole nation collectively said Nasa B'Nishma, which is a Lashon Rabbah. Let them say, answer B'Eshma. Why collect? So to answer this question, there's another question. And the second question I'm going to ask is, really, if everyone would look a little bit in his past, then he'd see what I'm now describing happened to him many times. I don't know, many, but times. What I'm describing is, let me tell you a situation which happened. I just read it in a sefer from Rabbi Lazer Ginsberg. He tells over a story. And when I read this story, it bothered me. And this is the question I'm asking. First, let me tell you over the story, and then I'll tell you another story if you won't be interested in hearing. And if there'll be enough time, maybe I'll say a third story. Listen. But all these stories that I'm telling you is one story with one question. Rabbi Lazer Ginsberg says over in his new sefer that came out, he's a Chayno of Rochi, passed away, a story about the Rimnitzer Rebbe. I don't know if you are aware, there was a Yid in America that came over from Russia in the 80s. And he was accepted by everyone as a big Baal Moifis. Someone that you went to and he gave brachos. And you saw unbelievable how what he gave the bracha. People used to stand on line to get him for brachos till 3 in the morning. 2, 3 in the morning. What? Hit the man in the 80s. You don't remember? He had in Borough Park and then in Seagate. The Rimnitzer Rebbe.
What did the Moshe say about it?
They all accepted upon him the Baal Moifis. The Satan Rebbe said about me, the Baal Moifis. You remember the Rimnitzer Rebbe? He was a big Baal Moifis. A tremendous Baal Moifis. His brachas, people were there in the wee hours of the morning. What? Yeah, like a man with Ruach Kodesh. So when he was in Russia, he was Moshe Nefesh for the mitzvah of Mil. He was a Moil. And he was Moshe Nefesh for the mitzvah of Mil. In Russia, those days when we're going back to 40s, the 30s, the 20s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, was a Sakoros Nefashis. Someone did a bris milah. They found out about it, off to Siberia for hard labor, and most people didn't come back. And he was Moshe Nefesh for mitzvah milah. He gets a knock on his door, and he opens up the door, and comes a lady, fancy-looking lady, and she says to him like this: she just had a baby 2 weeks ago. She's Jewish. Her husband is Jewish, and of course the baby's Jewish. And she wants a bris milah. But there's one major problem. Her husband doesn't want it. And her husband, who doesn't want it, has a high position in the Kremlin. Speaking about the Russians, the Stalin. So he has a position there. And he's completely, of course, fried, not to say the word, an atheist. And he doesn't want. But he has just now gone on vacation. He's just now left on vacation. And now that he's on vacation, I want to grab and do the bris. And of course, after the bris is done, I'm never going to let him diaper the baby. See the nefesh of a lady. So the Rimmer believes her story and makes up with her a rendezvous in a certain place, hidden place. And the Rimmer goes, and he takes along with him the one who told us the story, a former Yid that used to be Meshamash the Rimmer. He'll be the Sandik. And they meet in a certain time, in a certain place. And she comes with the baby wrapped up. And the Rimmer is there, and they do the bris. And right after the bris, when it's time to bandage the baby, all of a sudden the blood starts gushing. It seems like he hit a vein, and the blood is gushing. The baby started to turn blue. The mother started to scream. She says, if this baby dies, my husband's going to kill her. Imagine. The sandik is turning white and trembling. The Rimnitzer doesn't lose his cool. He tries again to stop the bleeding, and again it's not going. And then he starts saying shemus. Certain shemus from his mouth, and the bleeding stops. And Baruch Hashem was able to bandage the baby. That's the story. My question on this story is like this. Why did it have to happen that this should have to face such a challenge, such an assault? It should have gone smooth. After all, it was a Mesiras Nefesh mitzad the mother, a Mesiras Nefesh mitzad the Rimnitzer, Mesiras Nefesh mitzad the Gabbai, right? Everyone is being Mesiras Nefesh for the mitzvah. So if such a thing happened, shouldn't it have gone smooth, nice, comfortable, easy? Why did it have to go with such a test, such an assault? Mamish, if it was Kamat, can you imagine how it would look? You hit the blood and they're in a hidden place, the baby's turning blue. I was once by a bris milah also on a Russian, and all of a sudden there came a problem. I got so nervous, I started to shake. I remember. It was in a private doctor's office, and there was a problem. And all of a sudden, I can imagine, here you're all to imagine, I have a picture of what it must have looked like. What do you need it for? Everything's so nice and dandy. Well, what's the problem? Why does it have to go with a test? Another example. Shavuot is the yahrzeit of the Ger Tzedek. The Ger Tzedek was killed on the second day Shavuot. Now, the story of the Ger Tzedek, most probably you all know, but just to recap it, he was a Polish nobleman, meaning to say his parents were very wealthy Polish noblemen. And he was a brilliant mind, and his neshama was on Har Sinai. And he left his family, he left his wealth, he left his covet, and hid somewhere, and started to learn Torah. The kitzur, it hurts to say over the Messiah. There was a Messiah on him, and they found out about him. They were looking for him, and they found out about him, and they took him, and they went ahead, and they killed him. They burned him at stake on the second day Shavuos.
Who killed him?
The government. The church, it was the church that killed him. The church was allowed to do it, and the church killed him. So, let's think a second over here. And the great person that he was, when they asked him before, what is he going to do when he comes upstairs? He says, the first thing I'm going to do is be a melech yosher for those people that snitched on me. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Yeah? For the people that why? So they put me in, they gave me such a schus that I should be mekadosh Shem Shemayim. You understand? Amen. So, but let's understand it. Why does it happen that way? Isn't it great enough that he went ahead and left all his covet, all his money, all his wealth, everything? What did he do? He came like Boya said to Rus. What did he do? To be lost is Tachas Kafi Ashchin. What is he going to do? He's going to sit somewhere in a small town in a Beis Medrash or? So why did it would have gone so smooth and so nice? He could have grew up to be an older person, marry a wife, have children, have a family. Been very nice and dandy. Be Gvalki Kiddush Hashem. No, didn't have that. It didn't happen that way. What happened? He was caught, taken, burnt at stakes. Young man dies being burnt. How do we understand it? How do we understand it? No. One more example. I see the Oyum is listening, so one more example. This is a letter that I received about Nebuch, a child that was caught up in a fight between husband and wife. There was a couple that was married, and then the husband went off the derech, and he went ahead and left his wife and became like Mamash HaKedgoy, married a shit, and moved off to Kansas. And over there, with the courts of Kansas, he was able to get custody of two boys. And he brought them out to Kansas. A kid named Moshe and a kid named Ephraim. And these two kids he has in Kansas. One already got back here to Brooklyn, but there's still one in Kansas. And both of these kids are going through again. For instance, let me give you an example. Shabbos. This is a letter that the older brother, when he got back here, wrote. Every Shabbos was the same routine. I'm reading it to you. Our family would go on an outing, and this is what would happen. Ephraim would walk towards the door and stop by the door. He wouldn't open it because it activates electricity. My father would push the button, the door would open, and Ephraim would get in. Then my father would yell at him to close the door, and Ephraim, of course, refused to do so. On Shabbos, when we were going to my basketball league, he says, Ephraim forgot and opened the door to the car. On the way there, he realized his mistake and told me how bad he felt about it. When we got to the gym, Ephraim just sat in the car and did not come out. My father started to yell, "Open the door and come out!" To which Ephraim replied, "I can't open the door at Shabbos." So my father said, "You open it to get in, so open it now to get out." Ephraim answered, "Before it was an accident, but now I remember that it's Shabbos." So my father said, "Okay, you are going to stay in the car until you come out by yourself. Goodbye." 1 hour later, we got back to the car. We found Ephraim sleeping inside. One time when Ephraim refused to get into the car on Shabbos, my father got very angry. He grabbed Ephraim by the shirt, dragged him across the gravel-filled driveway, and shoved him into the car. Ephraim had no shoes on at that time, and his feet were scraped and bleeding from being dragged across the gravel. Then he has about kashas. You can imagine. Why does this kid have to go through all this? says one time when this Goyish wife took Ephraim, what's it called? Taco Bell. What do they call it? Taco Bell. She says to him, I'm getting you meat and cheese burrito. That's what it's called, burrito. And I don't want to hear any nonsense. Ephraim said he wasn't hungry. She said, you better stop making trouble. I'm going to ground you from the Xbox. I don't want the video game. Ephraim still refused to eat. And she got angry and took him home and sent him to bed hungry, of course. He was getting punished the whole month, such punishment. Hear what's going on. My question is, why does this child, innocent child, have to suffer like this? Why? To answer this, I have to tell you over a medrash. There's a medrash in Parshas Bahar that here lies the answer. And this is going to answer my first question also. The medrash in Parshas Bahar says over that in the days of Reb Tanchuma, there was no rain. So what do you do when there's no rain? The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, you fast. So they fasted 1/5. A second time. The third time Reb Tanchuma gets up and says, Abba Yisai, it seems fasting isn't enough. We have to do Ma'asim Tovim. So go out there and do tzedakah. That's what he says. Let's do tzedakah. So there's one Yid that was in the crowd that heard the shmuz. He went home. He was very enthused. He goes home. He took all the money that he had in his house, his gold watch that he had, and he says he's going now. I'm going to give it out to tzedakah. He leaves the house and starts walking to where he knows there are poor people that should be able to give it out. Who comes towards him? His former wife. A wife that he had divorced years ago, and since the divorce, it was a bitter divorce. And since the divorce, he hasn't seen him. Like the halacha, he moved to a different area. And now he's going with the money to give it out. Who comes towards him? His wife. We had such fights with her, unbelievable. She runs over to him and she says to him like this, you should know that from when we divorced, my life just went down and down and down. I have no money. I'm starved. Look at my clothes all torn. Please help me out. And she starts crying. He has pity on her and picks out his money that he had taken to give out and gives it to her. There's someone down the block that sees what happened. He comes running to Reb Tanchuma and says, Rebbe, I found the problem. I know where there's no rain. So what is? He says, you know that person that davens by us? He says, yes. There's something going on with him and his wife, him and his former wife. Can you imagine? What did you see? He said, I saw him meet her in the street and he hands her money. There must be something going on. There must be something not kosher going on. Reb Tanchuma calls him in, and Tanchuma says, my son, he says, you know, there's no rain. People are starving. You know why it is? Because there are Averis out there. You have to have Rahmanas on the people. So he says, what do you mean? He says to her, what do you mean? He says, I mean, someone told me that he saw you speaking to your divorcee and giving her money. It seems that there's something going on between both of you. He says, Rebbe, Chas v'sholom. I never saw her since I divorced him. This is the first time. And she comes towards me, and she tells me her plight. So I had Rahmanas on her. What should I do? I had Rahmanas on her. So I gave her the money. I took my money from my house because I was listening to you. You had said, let's do chesed. So I went out and I took the money. I went out to do chesed. And what should I do? I once heard from you with Roshi, says Rabbi Tanchuma, that you said, from your relatives, you shouldn't. I was once married to her. And now she's starving. I did a chesed. When he said that, the Tanchuma picks up his eyes to Shemayim and says, Rebbeinu Shalom. The norm is that a person hates someone that did him in, especially a woman that knows how to give it over the head, right? A divorcee. And he's not mechuyev to give anything. And he went ahead and gave her to support her. He says, we are bonim hamokim, we are the Eibish's children. So, and you have to feed us. As soon as he said that, Rebbe Tanchuma, it started to rain, and the whole room. Let me ask you the question, give you the answer what seems to be. Why did it have to happen this way? He meant well. He went off, took the money, listened to Rebbe Tanchuma, and took the money to go ahead and do what? To go ahead and give tzedakah. So he has to have such a test. This was a test. To meet this lady who he dislikes, and to give this lady who dislikes food money. Why did it have to happen? The answer is the stance. In order to break the gzeira, it was a gzeira on everyone. And the only way to break the gzeira was that someone should come along and have a test and break the test. In other words, have a test. Could he do chesed with his divorcee? Could he do chesed with someone that caused him such sorrows? Could he do it? And when he did that chesed, in Shemayim, they took the gzeira, ripped it up. Question is, what does his test have to do with us? Good. He went ahead and stood up to his test. Very nice. What does that have to do with us? The Torah says it was Naasav and Ishmael. We didn't say, I'll do. We said, we'll do. By saying will do means to say we all became connected. We all became connected in the sense that everyone's action we're all achrayis for. It works for the good, it works for Chas Hashem the other way. For the good, let's talk about the good. The good is when someone's oimim in the soil. Yes, why did the Rebnitzer have to have this test that he goes to do a bris milah with such a serious nefesh? So he should have to go through this, that stop bleeding and can't stop the bleeding. And the answer is, with this oimid bin Esoyna, the Rebnitzer Rebbe, who knows how many good came out of it for the whole Klal Yisrael. We asked, what did the Ger Tzedek? Why do we need the Ger Tzedek? Why couldn't he live a happy life? You know what they say? I don't know if it's verified, but they say that Reb Chaim Baal Roshana was born later. I don't know if it was the next year or the year after, and his neshama, Chaim Baal Roshana, who he, all yeshivas is with because of his yeshiv built, is the Teilada from the Ger Tzedek. They say the nitzut of the neshama of the Ger Tzedek went into Reb Chaim Baal Roshana. Because Reb Chaim Baal Roshana's bris was on the day of the Ger Tzedek, when the Ger Tzedek was birthed. Whatever it is. But there was the reason was with Toiveh of Klal Yisrael. That's what it's there. All these tests that people have, not only for themselves, so Toiveh is Klal Yisrael, because Klal Yisrael needs it. So when we come to Shavuos, if you hear it a lot deeper, why do I have to listen to Torah mitzvahs? Because I accept it upon myself. And through my accept upon myself, not only is it for me, no, it's for Kol of Klal Yisrael, for everyone out there. I keep on telling you, this is 100% right. Those that, find that they can't be a whole day in yeshiva. They can't go the regular route which has been routed today. They have to be out there, whatever reason it is. When they come to a yeshiva and they learn, when they take off time to learn, that's so choshev b'nei Hashem, you can't imagine. And when it comes Shavuos, what our bakosha should be, Naasav and Ishmael, I want a bigger share in helping out Klal Yisrael. That means through my Torah, and through my mitzvahs, through my Maisim Torah, through my Tefillah, and through my Shviras HaMidas, and through all the other good things that I do, it should be Naasav and Ishmael. It should go for Gans Klal Yisrael. And when that happens, you can't imagine, you hit the jackpot, you hit the lotto, you won the lotto. So the Eibush to help, and that we should be zeicha to emes kabbalah.